it's Brenda with Raise Your Hand, and I wanted to welcome you to our Raise the Glass Gala. I know it's another year of virtual, but I wanted to do this welcome video in my garden. Last year we were in such a dark place. I didn't even do a video, I just wrote a letter. I know pandemic has been extremely hard for many of us, and it's such brighter days ahead. Raise Your Hand has done an expansion like no other, and I thought that it would be so wonderful to reflect that, like my ridiculously overgrown garden that is just unable to contain itself in Neatly Rose. Raise Your Hand has hired, during a pandemic, a parent organizer. We hired Rosemary, we hired Naoma. We've expanded our outreach, but even more is what's to come. We know the demand is huge. More people are learning about Raise Your Hand and organizing and understanding how powerful the collective voices are to actually make systemic change for education. And so that's why we are here today, because we don't do it by ourselves. We do it with all of you, and so we wanted to celebrate with all of you. We want to see how we can all grow together for next year, but really just share in not just the expansion of this last year, but what dreams we have for our kids' education and how we can raise funds to make sure that we can expand our voice and elevate those voices that need to be heard, and really make public education the excellent opportunity that can be throughout the entire city. So thanks for joining us virtually. We hope that you have fun. I want to say thanks to you, but most of all, I want to say thanks to our phenomenal executive director, John Ann. He's the master gardener behind all of our planning and opportunities that we can grow into. And so with that, I thanks John Ann specifically, and turn it over to him. Thanks.
Thank you, Brenda. Like many folks, this pandemic has been incredibly challenging. I'm so grateful to have an amazing team here at Raise Your Hand. I'm sure they get tired of me saying this, but teamwork makes the dream work. Good evening, y'all. Welcome, and thank you so much for supporting our annual fundraiser, Raise a Glass. I want to thank our host committee, who are some of our most loyal supporters. Also, thank you to our wonderful sponsors who understand the fight for equitable education is ongoing and that this work is worth it. For example, it's because of our donors that we're able to pivot, respond, and support North Lawndale parents in the fight to keep their schools open. A lot has happened since the last Raise a Glass fundraiser. Let's all knock on wood that this is the last time we toast virtually. This past year, we've worked with dozens of parents on preparing their run for local school council and advocated for significant improvements throughout the election process. During moments of chaos, we were able to bring consistent, reliable information to parents and support their passion to improve their schools. We brought forward LSC legislation that supported schools who were struggling with quorum and made the process more accessible, and continued the fight to fully empower LSCs. We expanded our fight to remove police from schools. We held workshops and deepened the conversation on how to address what safety looked like, to learn the history of discipline and policing in our schools, and how to disrupt the current policing culture by the adults in the building. Since Raise Your Hand has begun, we've been involved in the fight for an elected representative school board. After years of organizing, Springfield has passed a bill that will bring a fully elected school board by 2027. While we know that Chicago families deserve the end to mayoral control today, we also know that we must begin the preparation now for preparing a pipeline of grassroots parent candidates to transform the district to one that centers their needs. Throughout the pandemic, parents have been left out of the decision-making around what families need for a safe return to school. Decisions continue to be made in a vacuum. Along with our partners, we met and listened to hundreds of Chicago parents on what they needed. Together, we developed the Trust Learning Care platform and held press conferences, teach-ins, and actions that demanded that federal funding be used for transformative changes that wouldn't return us to a normal that didn't work for many parents. Many of our campaigns culminated with a People's Report Card in May, where we held the mayor accountable for failed and harmful policies. So much of the work that I shared this year would not have happened without the people we're honoring tonight. It makes so much sense that the inaugural Parent Public Education Change Agent Award goes to Jenny Biggs. Our belief is that in order to create a public education system that is just, we must create parent leaders. Throughout her tenure at Raise Your Hand as a volunteer and staff member, she has grown hundreds of parent leaders. From those who have never interacted with the system and have questions, to those who have been banging their head against it for years, Jenny was always there. Patient, consistent, and willing to meet them where they're at. Even though she's a CPS parent, Jenny always centered those who needed the most and worked doggedly to help them reach their goals. We're not the organization we are today without her work. Congratulations, Jenny. I think I also speak for many of our parents who would not have understood the urgency of police-free schools without the youth-led coalition that set the groundwork over 5 years ago. They worked tirelessly to educate our communities on why resources should be better spent on creating actual safety, and how police and policing culture are solutions that ultimately harm students, especially Black and brown students or students with special needs. The Cops Out CPS Coalition changed Chicago's collective consciousness on to create new worlds. We're incredibly proud to have worked with almost a dozen youth leaders from the Cops Out CPS campaign to both center their voices and co-design the workshops. Congratulations to the Cops Out CPS Coalition for being the recipient of our first collective Public Education Change Agent Award. Now I want to bring up board members Cassandra and Eric, who are going to introduce Jenny. Then they will be followed by Natasha, who will introduce Liltree, the youth recipient, the youth leader accepting the award for Cops Out CPS.
Jenny, I want to thank you for being a connector. You connected me to other parents, to policies and procedures, to media, to the past. You are so great at being able to say, this happened before 5 years ago, and here's what happened, and here's how you can read about it. That was amazing. Your ability to be a Chicago Public Schools archivist is unparalleled and so appreciated. Thank you, Jenny, for all you did for Raise Your Hand, for parents like me, and for helping us in the fight to make Chicago Public Schools a more equitable place. We miss you, Jenny.
The radical possibility of public education is in the efforts of each of us, for the betterment of all of us, in its potential to be inclusive, to share abundance among all of us. Raise Your Hand's mission is to engage, inform, and empower parents at the grassroots for all children. Jenny Biggs has lived our mission for the last 10 years. She democratized knowledge about CPS with her constant presence at board meetings, budget hearings, parent meetings, advocacy trainings, coalition meetings, and direct actions. Jenny would head to meetings between school drop-offs and pickup times, and go to meetings that went late into the evening, where she would live tweet for those that couldn't make it. Her dedication and consistency helped Raise Your Hand become a trusted resource for families and teachers. It's at these events that Jenny would listen to and engage other parent leaders to let them know they have an ally in the fight for justice in public schools. If you've ever been a part of this fight, you've seen Jenny out there, and although she's no longer with Raise Your Hand, her influence remains anytime a parent finds the bravery to speak at a board meeting, or when a parent holds an elected official accountable, or decides they want to run for LSC. Thank you, Jenny Biggs, for helping to build this org, for teaching me about the power of listening, showing up, and using my voice, for being an early Raise Your Hand Southsider, and for being a reliable BS detector and partner in this struggle. We love you.
Hi, everyone. It's such an honor to receive this award. Thank you to everyone at Raise Your Hand. To the board and staff at Raise Your Hand, as well as Chicago Public School parents and public school parents across Illinois, it was an honor and a privilege to work with you for so many years. I started at Raise Your Hand as a volunteer, then I joined the board, and then I was on staff for several years. Chances are pretty good if you're watching this right now, I probably answered a question that you had or attempted to. I may have shared raise your hand resources or resources that we knew existed out in the world, or I may have even connected you to like-minded parents who were working on the issue that mattered to you most and that you wanted to get involved in. I truly thank you for your individual advocacy as well as collective advocacy you took on behalf of public education in Chicago and Illinois. Raise Your Hand is truly a phenomenal organization. It has great leadership, a great team, and it has a foundational base that is very strong in organizing and advocacy across Chicago and Illinois. As I reflect on my 15th year as a CPS parent, I am so grateful that Raise Your Hand was around for the past 11 and a half of those 15 years. In March 2012, I spoke for the first time at an unelected Board of Education meeting, and I was speaking against ROM's unfunded longer school day. I wondered why weren't CPS parents consulted on this unilateral decision. And I was not the only parent. There were parents across Chicago asking the same question, and there were also small groups of parents coming together to ask really important questions about what was about to happen with our students in Chicago Public Schools. And as you know, this is a consistent question being asked for a multitude of issues within CPS in Illinois public education. Why weren't the parents consulted? How come we're not at the decision-making table? Raise Your Hand offers space where possible solutions can be built by those parents most greatly impacted. Raise Your Hand hosts direct actions for parents to collectively advocate on systemic issues in public education. Raise Your Hand listens, provides context to really understand an issue, researches, creates tools, and offers common sense solutions. Raise Your Hand brings the parent voice that is so sorely needed to the decision table. It is so important for Raise Your Hand to be there for public school parents today and well into the future. Finally, I want to offer a great big congratulations to the youth leaders of Cops Out CPS on their Education Change Agents Award. You are such an inspiration to not only your fellow students, but also us parents. Thank you for all that you do and all that you have taught us about the issue, as well as organizing and taking action to bring change. Thanks so much.
I'm Natasha, Raise Your Hand organizer, proud mom of a recent CPS grad and a CPS alum. I am honored to speak on the powerful youth-led Cops Out CPS coalition that has changed our city, galvanized Chicago, and made lasting impacts across the nation. Through your powerful leadership, organizing skills, sharing your passion and your energy, you really have moved the conversation forward in terms of the school to prison nexus that has existed in Chicago public schools for far too long. Thank you for sharing your first voice experience, your lived experience in the hallways and classrooms and what policing culture has done and what the impacts have been. Through your website and sharing undeniable research data, your weekly webinars and speaking truth to power, and even in smaller spaces earlier this year, joining Raise Your Hand for workshops where we hosted teachers and administrators, counselors, neighbors, decision makers, to understand that the time is now, as you have said very clearly, enough is enough, and we need to create spaces in schools that are informed by trauma practices, care, love, and transformative justice. That we now see, as a credit to your work, more schools are moving away from police presence and hiring support staff to make sure that we have the schools that actually are safe. Thank you so much for your leadership, your diligence, your focus, and I want to congratulate you, the Cops Out CPS Coalition of Young Dope Leaders, on your 2021 Organizational Public Education Champion Award. You deserve it. Job extremely well done. And again, congrats.
Hey y'all, I am Lil Tree, a 2021 graduate of Kenwood Academy. I just want to spit a little bit about myself. I've worked with mad groups such as the Silent Starters, Ujima Medic, Chicago Freedom School, First Defense Legal Aid, and I've had the privilege to work with some of the notorious Chicago organizations such as Good Kids Mad City, Black Lives Matter Chicago, Royals, and Brighton Park Neighborhood Council. I've even had the privilege to work on some of the dopest campaigns of Chicago such as No Cop Academy, Anybody But Mitts, and most importantly, the coalition and campaign that is being recognized here today, Cops Out CPS. I'm honored to receive this award on behalf of Cops Out CPS. This acknowledgement means so much, not only to me or to my peers, but also to the youth of Chicago. Oftentimes our struggles go unseen and unheard of, and oftentimes we feel so invisible in this city of thousands of people, and yet here we are getting an award. It is amazing, and not only amazing because it's amazing. I'm sorry, y'all. When I got this award, it kind of shook me up a little bit just because over the last year of 2021 and 2020, there was a lot of harm, there was a lot of trauma that the youth of Chicago endured. And often it was a lot of tokenizing and not a lot of acknowledging and validating the youth of Chicago for the work, and not only the work, but the suffering that they went through, right? To scream, to be heard, to demand, and things like that. And there was also a lot of lack of support from a lot of following adult allies. And so to sit here and get this award means a lot. It rubs on that validation bone, and I'm so appreciative of it. Again, Cops Out CPS is an effort to remove cops from CPS schools. And although we won some, the fight is not over until we win them all, especially the folks most impacted, which is Black and brown people who are often criminalized and marginalized with police in their schools. We've had struggles, we have triumphs, but the efforts continue. If we don't get it, we're gonna shut it down. Y'all gonna hear about it, y'all gonna see about it. Just keep following, because we coming. And the fight's not over. Cops Out CPS all day, baby.
I'm just so proud of the work we've been able to do together this year. None of this is possible without supporters like yourself. It's because of your support we've been able to give out over $2,000 to youth to co-facilitate and design our workshops. It's because of grassroots funders like yourself that we were and soon will be able to continue to provide weekly newsletters in English and Spanish and keep our CPS parents up to date on the latest news and policy. Nothing makes me happier than seeing parents lead the change they want to see. During the pandemic, we were able to hire 2 more CPS parents to serve as our first ever full-time parent organizer and advocacy director. That is why we need your continued support. We want to hire South and West Side parents to be our LSC champions and support LSC engagement in the areas of highest parent vacancies. We want to double the hours that we're going to spend on special education organizing because the need only continues to grow. Please consider a gift to support our work. Whatever support is greatly appreciated. If you do give over $100, you'll receive a dope tote bag. Who doesn't like a tote bag? Also, don't forget to check out our online auction, which closes in 4 hours. There are great restaurants, family-friendly experiences, and classes to check out. Thank you all again for celebrating our change agents tonight. Thank you for your continued support in the fight for education justice. Have a great night.